Okay, hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to JFD Traders Espresso with me, Darius and Anucauskas. Today is the 11th of September 2019, so welcome everyone. Welcome to this Wednesday's morning session where we're going to have a quick look at the markets, a few of the charts, the usual stuff. But before we do that, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest, and we can continue. Okay guys, so I hope you're all seeing everything clearly. I hope you can hear me okay, just because I'm having a bit of a change of location, so I hope there won't be any interruptions in this video and the upcoming videos as well. So as always, guys, before we jump into the charts, quick mentioning of our JFD Bank web page, but YouTube page, to which you can always subscribe to in order not to miss any of our upcoming videos, and of course our JFD Bank website, and specifically our JFD research page, which you can always check out, and I believe you can find a lot of useful stuff here. So, yep, like I said, guys, feel free to check us out, and always check us out on a daily basis. And I believe, like I said, you can find good, interesting material to read through. But right now, let's jump into the charts. Now, the first one I want to touch on here is gold. Now, looking at gold, we can see that the commodity has drifted lower. I talked about gold recently, and basically what I was saying that we may see a further drift lower here, especially if we see a drop below the 1512 and a half, 1530 zone, and this is where we could end up testing this upside support line taken from the low of 30th of May. So for now, it seems that everything is working according to plan, and but we just kind of it's still slightly above this line. So in a way, it hasn't kind of reached this this upside line yet. So in a way, we are still not excluding this possibility of seeing a small drop back towards this upside line, but be very careful, of course, because looking at this right now, you can see that, looking at the 4-hour chart, you can see that the commodity drifted lower, broke below the 200 EMA, kind of then traveled back above it, and basically was all around it, and now it's back above this 200 EMA. So of course, don't get me wrong, this doesn't exclude the fact that it could still reverse and drop again, but given that it's trying to climb back above the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart, this of course is kind of seen as it could be seen as a positive. The only thing is that for us to see this as a positive and start considering higher levels, ideally we would like to see a push back above the 1512, 1513 zone, and only then we will consider a possible move higher again here, because up until here, anything could kind of happen. I mean, it could travel a little bit higher, then reverse and drop back down towards this upside line. Again, like I said, for now we are going to be keeping a close eye on this level right here, the 1512 and a half, 1530, but of course we'll keep a close eye on this upside line. Probably this is going to be the more important one to watch, because if this reverses and drops and tests this upside line, then all eyes are going to be on this, if it's going to hold or not. If it's going to fail and the price is going to fall below the 1475 area here, then this is where it could become a little bit more interesting for these sellers, as we could see the pair drifting further down here towards the area around the 1453 zone. So keep your eyes on this one, and then of course, like I said, if this fails, then yep, further declines are possible. But for now, let's not over speculate on this too much. First, let's see what it wants to do with this upside line. If it decides to move higher without reaching this upside line, keep your eyes on this 15-13 zone. A nice good break above this could, in a way, open the path towards higher levels again. Jumping into Brent oil, so we haven't looked at this one for a while. We looked at WTI oil, and for now, you can see that this is what's happening. So after kind of reversing to the upside on the in the beginning of September, it continues to climb higher. It continues to trade above this little tentative upside line here. Let me just put this one on the chart. So it continues to trade above this, but what's also more interesting is that looking at the slightly bigger picture, and if we take a downside line and draw it from this high, the high of April of this year, now if you'll draw this line, you'll see that the commodity is already nicely sitting above this downside line. So in a way, all this kind of could mean a change in trend, and we could see this one maybe drifting further north here. So that's why for now, guys, what we're gonna do, we're going to probably mainly focus on some of our key resistance and support levels. So basically on the upside, if we see a nice good break of the yesterday's high near the 63.75 level here, then yep, we will aim for higher levels, because there's such a move, such a break above this would confirm a forthcoming higher high, and we could then target this little high near the 65.40, 42 zone, something like that, approximately around there, marked by the high of the 31st of July. In terms of the downside here, then what we'll wait for is a drop below, not only below this this downside line and also below this short-term tentative upside line, but ideally a drop below the 61.50 area could in a way do the trick here for the bears again, and we could see this one sliding further down towards the 59.85 or even below that. But again, this is going to be the first level that we're going to be targeting. But as I said before, we could examine the downside here. Ideally, we need to see a drop below the 61.50 zone. So keep your eyes on that one. Let's jump into a few pairs now. AUD/USD very quickly on this. So I talked about this one previously, and basically for now you can see that the pair is balancing slightly below the 0.6876. This was the high of Monday, and it did have an overshoot here this morning, but as you can see, the bears were quick to push this one back down below the 0.6876. So for now, we're going to keep a close eye on it. If we get another push, then that's good news for the bulls. We could see this one traveling further north, and we will initially aim for the 0.69 zone, but just slightly above that, we do have the R3, which is just basically about 3 pips higher than the 0.69 level. So we'll keep an eye on this level first, because this is going to be a more interesting one to watch if the pair is going to be able to test the 0.69 zone, because also it will be interesting to see if this is going to be somewhat of a psychological level, which could in a way keep the rate down for a little bit. So but if it fails to do that, then yep, this could continue traveling higher, and one of the levels that we're going to be watching here is going to be this one near the 0.6907, or actually, well, to be honest, actually that's a bit too close. And probably the more interesting one to watch is going to be somewhere around here, and that's around 0.6969 zone. So keep your eyes on this one, but we'll consider that level if we see a nice good pop above the 0.69 zone. So let me kind of reiterate that, well, we capture everything here, because if we see a push above the 0.6876 zone, yes, we will aim for slightly higher levels, but we'll be very cautious around the 0.69 zone, because in a way, if it acts as a strong psychological level, then we could see the bears stepping in here and potentially driving this one back to the downside. If, let's say, suddenly this pair starts falling below the 0.6825 area, now this is where it could become a little bit interesting for the sellers, because and also if the pair falls below its 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart. Now this is, like I said, this is where more sellers could step in and potentially drive this one down, and we could aim for the 0.6753 zone. Approximately around here, it could be a nice target, but again, for now, we are more bullish than bearish, especially if we see a good push above the 0.6876. EURSEK, now something that's quite interesting for today. So ignore this line. So this line was previously valid. Now no longer it's no longer valid basically. So for now, what you could do here is keep an eye on this little tentative downside line. Now it's a bit of a tentative one because it's not capturing here or anything. So that's why you probably don't focus on it too much. You can have it on your chart, but like I said, don't focus on it too much. Mainly focus on some potential breakout points. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this pair is because we do have the Swedish economic data coming out, so Swedish CPI figures, so inflation figures for the month of August. So keep your eyes on those, and if we see slightly better than expected, or let's say a bit better than expected numbers, we could see this one drifting further down again here and dropping back below the 10.68 68 zone here. As you can see, it previously acted as good support. It's doing the same thing right now as well. The thing is that supports also the downside, technically speaking, because the pair is below its pivot. It's today's pivot, which is around the 10.71, approximately around there. So if you see another drop below the 10.6868, this could drift further down. We could target areas like the 10.6445, or even actually the 10.60 82, 83 zone, which acted as a fantastic area of support here back last week. So we could see another test of this, but if this fails to withhold, the pair would confirm a forthcoming lower low, and we could see deeper moves lower. So for now, guys, be very careful here. Keep your eyes on the 10.6868 zone. If we see another slide below this, then we will aim for the low of last week. In terms of the upside here, and this is where I was talking about that don't focus too much on the downside line here, focus on this little high near the, or I should say the high of yesterday, near the 10.7740 zone. So a nice good pop above this could in a way open the path back up here towards the highs that we saw here in the end of August, so the highest point of August, and that, let me just put this one on the chart very quickly, and that's basically near the 10.855455 zone. So could be a nice good target here, but we'll wait for a push above the 10.7740. Also, like I said, be very careful. In about an hour and a half, something like that, or maybe less than that, we have the Swedish inflation numbers. So don't forget to check those, and we'll see if we have a nice reaction here or not. USDJPY, I talked about this one previously as well, and this is what I was talking about. I was talking about this 107.1820 zone. This is what I was talking about on Monday, basically. If we get a nice push above this, then this could increase the chances for a further move higher. You can see that we did have a nice break here above this 107.18. The pair drifted back down to test it from above, but failed to drop below it, and you can see that the bulls pushed it further. So the level that we're targeting here right now is going to be around the 108 zone, maybe just slightly below that. Maybe it could do like a trick here and then travel towards the 108, but fail to test the 108 and reverse somewhere slightly below it and push back to the downside. Now, again, for now, we are more bullish than bearish on this one. If we see a further push above the 108 zone, the next target for us is around the 108.39. We're not going to drag this one too much to the upside. First, like I said, we will go shortly, step by step. For now, this is what we could be maybe seeing here. So we could see a nice recovery here potentially. As you can see, by the way, today the pair right now is actually, the pair is getting a hold up near its R2. So in a way, we could see this one kind of stalling here, maybe correcting back down toward the R1, which is around the 107.67. And then if that fails to hold, or the other way around, actually, if it holds the rate from dropping lower, we could see another push higher here, potentially maybe this time leading above the 108 zone. So don't forget that we are also trading above this this upside line here. Let me just put this one on the chart. A bit of a tentative one, but nevertheless an upside line here. So we're going to keep a close eye on this one. So in a way, if we see a drift back down here towards the 107.18 zone. We'll be very careful here because for us to examine further downside, well, ideally we would like to see it drop not only below this upside line but also below this 106. 106.69 zone, 69.68 level, because this way the pair would place itself back below 200 EMA on the 4-hour chart, and we could see this one sliding to the downside towards the 105.69 or even below that. But again, for now, guys, be very careful here. We are more bullish than bearish on this one. We could be seeing here maybe a small correction to the downside. For today, we will be looking at today's pivot, which is around the R1, which is around the 107.67. If it holds, we could see this one reversing back to the upside earlier. If it starts dropping below this is going to be somewhat of our little bit of a neutral territory. Of course, overall, we should be kind of more positive, but if this slides closer back towards the 107.18, then we'll be very careful here and still remain maybe bullish, but very, very cautiously bullish. So that's why, guys, for now, yes, we could see move further north, especially going towards the 108 zone, but do not exclude a possible correction first. USD-CAD. Now, I talked about this one this week as well, and we're still targeting the 1.3113 zone here, which previously acted as a fantastic area of support. You can see that the pair tried to push higher yesterday, but failed near its 21 EMA, and we sold off again, and we could see this one continuing drifting to the downside. So for now, this is what I've drawn, of course, but don't get me wrong, it could actually not recover anything and drop straight away lower. So we're not far from this 1.3113 level, so it could be a nice good target to test. And also do not forget that we may see a small, maybe false breakout below this, which in a way could take out some buyers here initially who have like very tight stop losses. And then we could see maybe this one recovering and pushing back to the upside. But the main level that we're going to be keeping a close eye on here is going to be the 1.3113 zone. In terms of the upside here, well, to get slightly more comfortable with slightly higher levels, ideally we would like to see a push back above the 1.3199 zone, so, or in a way you could round it up towards the 1.32. If we do see a nice good push back above the 1.32, then we will consider a possible move back here towards the 1.3250. But if that fails to withhold, now this is where it could become a little bit more exciting for more bulls, as we could see this one drifting back to the upside here towards the 1.33 and above that. So again, for now, from the very short-term perspective, on the upside, what we're going to be looking at here is going to be the 1.32 zone, and a nice good break above this could in a way lead the pair towards slightly higher levels. But in terms of the downside here, we are more leaning towards the downside, and the 1.3113 level, that's what we are targeting initially. And if we see a test of that, then we'll take it from there. Then we'll have a quick look again at the USD-CAD and see how it's going to perform, how it could perform further down the line. And the last pair I wanted to quickly touch on, GBPUSD. So this one is stuck below its 1.2380 zone. I talked about this one previously. Basically, we need to see a nice good push above this before we could examine further upside. I talked about this level here previously as well, when we were still hanging around here, around the 1.23 zone. So as you can see, we managed to get a perfect hit at the 1.2380. Now this is going to become that barrier that's going to be, we're going to be waiting for a break off. Because as you can see previously here on the 17th of July, it also acted as a fantastic area of support. So this time it's taking the role of strong resistance. So that's why we're going to be very careful here, very cautious. And as I said, we'll wait for that break above the 1.2380 zone before we could examine the upside. Now, in terms of the downside here, it's a very tricky spot here, because even if it, let's say, drops below the 1.2310, yes, it could drift a little bit lower, but there are a bunch of good support obstacles for this pair here. In a way, it could get a hold up near the 1.2260 or even the 1.2233. And if it gets a hold up around here somewhere, then we could see maybe this one reversing back to the upside here, and in a way, this way, kind of forming somewhat of a possible range here. So again, that's too early to talk about this, but something for you guys to consider. So that's why we have our downside kind of scenario from here, from this downside line, a drop below this downside line here, taken from the high of May this year. Only then we will consider a possible move lower here if we see a drop below this. But again, if we see a drop below the 1.2310, we will aim maybe for a little low, slightly lower areas, but up until here, up until this 1.2233 zone. Okay guys, I really hope you found it useful. I hope the video was running okay and you could see everything. So like I said, I do have a bit of a change of location here today. And this is going to be for a while probably. But like I said, I hope you found the video useful. If you want to join me later on at my if you want to join my video later on at my traders tea time, as always, that's 13:15 GMT. I'll try to maybe improve the quality here of the video, and I'll see what I can do. But like I said, I hope it didn't give you too much this inconvenience here. So, but anyway, long story short, guys, thank you very much for sticking